On the topic of their gear and equipment, the standard ODST battle dress uniform is manufactured by Mizraya Armory. It incorporates titanium composites for armor plating to give the user added protection, while also being vacuum rated and capable of extravehicular activity for 15 minutes. It also includes a heating and cooling system that can match the infrared signature of the current local weather, helping to maximize stealth. The helmet is a derivative of the standard issue CH-252 helmet, being equipped with modern communication gear, a heads-up display, and motion trackers. It is also issued with Visual Intelligence System Reconnaissance Technology, or VISOR in short. This is a proprietary integrated data management system that provides its users with navigational data, access to certain infrastructure systems, and allows them to store mission content. Following the recruitment of ODSTs into the Spartan-IV program, there was a high demand for armor that matched the aesthetic and functions that the troopers had come to know and love. This prompted the development of a Mjolnir Gen 2 variant of the ODST BDU. Throughout the ensuing war, the ODSTs would remain steadfast in their effort to protect humanity, often being deployed to Covenant-invaded worlds to reinforce the local military presence, assist in the evacuation of civilians, or even board civilian ships to purge their navigational data to deny the Covenant the location of Earth or other colonies. And they would be present at every major conflict, whether it be the Covenant's invasions of Harvest and Reach, the Battle for Alpha Halo, or the later Battle of Earth, the largest campaign that they would fight in throughout the entirety of the war. There were even ODSTs present during the first ARC conflict, assisting Spartan-II John 117 in neutralizing multiple anti-aircraft artillery platforms, and later the assault of Forerunner structures. Following the conclusion of the war, the ODSTs have remained an active military unit, having participated in several major operations in the post-war era, such as the Battle of Dreythus V against Merrick Vol's Covenant in 2554 and the Second ARC conflict against the Banished in 2559. Can't forget the ODSTs of Fireteam Raven, who were assigned to the UNSC Pillar of Autumn, designated as part of the battalion connected to Operation Red Flag. It was a four-man group consisting of Ethan Graves, Marcus Hudson, Victor Ramos, and Ava Lang. They were aboard the ship when it escaped Reach and made a blind slipspace jump to what turned out to be Alpha Halo. Here, the UNSC would be aggressively pursued and outmatched, forcing everyone to abandon ship to the Ringworld's surface. The team was deployed to several critical battles across the installation, operating closely with the Master Chief's own efforts. Sadly though, the team would be killed during a last stand against the Flood as the Autumn's reactor core detonated and destroyed the ring. Alpha 9 is easily the most recognizable group of ODSTs in the Halo franchise, having participated in numerous engagements over the course of the Human Covenant War, including key battles on Sargasso, Reach, and Earth. In the later part of the war, its members would include Edward Buck, Michael Crespo, Kojo Agu, Taylor Henry Miles, Jonathan Doherty, and even Oni operative Veronica Dare on occasion. But in the post-war era, the team's roster went through some changes, having disbanded shortly after the betrayal of Crespo and the death of the Rookie in 2554. But the team would again be reformed in 2558, having Miles and his wife Gretchen Catola join the team, alongside Crespo, who was freed from his imprisonment. The entirety of the team also underwent Spartan-IV augmentations, except for Dare, and operated as a fire team aboard the UNSC Infinity. Whether or not the team was on board the ship when it was neutralized by the Banished in 2559 is unclear, so their current status as a whole is unknown. Another name that comes to mind is Command Squad Sunray, who is the lead element of Boomerang Company and was once the UNSC's most elite ODST team assigned to the UNSC Spirit of Fire. Its members include Elijah Vaughn, Alana Quinn, Helena Gruss, Chloe Turpin, and Devin Sparks. This team would contribute to several major battles in the earliest days of the war, but after the ship sacrificed its slipspace drive to deny the Covenant an ancient fleet of Forerunner ships on the Shield World Trove, they would be forced into a slow return trip back to human-controlled space. However, they alongside the surviving crew would be pulled into a battle for survival when they met the Banished on the Ark in 2559. Sunray would be deployed on several operations, most notable being Operation Spearbreaker. Their current status is unknown, but they are likely still engaged with Banished forces. Captain Veronica Dare was born on the human colony world of Actium and graduated from the Naval Academy, which led to her eventual posting within the UNSC's Office of Naval Intelligence. Her work in Section 1 would lead to her command of ODST Squad Alpha 9 during the Battle of Sargasso in 2546. Here she was reunited with Gunnery Sergeant Edward Buck, whom she had a relationship with in the past, but ended things when she realized the danger of their occupations would make things too difficult. Several years later, while serving as the intelligence officer aboard the UNSC Say My Name, she would again take command of Alpha 9 and retask them from their infiltration of the Prophet of Regrets fleet to yet another classified ONI mission. But during their atmospheric re-entry, the fleet's subspace jump above the city released an EMP blast which knocked everyone's pods off course. Then, after a series of events, Dare and the team would be able to regroup and extract the Huragok Quick to Adjust, who had been secretly working to repair the city's superintendent AI and assist UNSC forces. Upon their departure, she and Buck agreed to give their relationship another go. After the conclusion of the Human Covenant War, Dare would continue her classified work with ONI, sometimes disappearing for weeks at a time. And after Buck transitioned to a Spartan-IV and the reformation of Alpha 9, Dare essentially dared Buck to marry her. He happily agreed, and the two would be married aboard the UNSC Infinity by the ship's AI Roland, surrounded by friends from both Fireteam Osiris and Alpha 9. Then, in September of 2559, Dare would be sent to the insurrectionist-aligned planet of Venetia in Operation Sonata to investigate a new developing rogue element in New Tyne. Here she discovered the beginnings of a non-UNSC super soldier program led by a Yonat arms dealer, and much like the Spartan-II program, they were using children as the candidates, but instead of training them to become humanity's saviors, they were being molded into mercenaries for hire in order to repay their family's debts. She was nearly captured during this mission, but was rescued by Alpha 9 despite her direct orders for them not to follow. Her last known location was aboard the UNSC Infinity in 2559, having just spoken with Fred 104 shortly after Blue Team's return from Operation Wolf. Now, whether or not she or Alpha 9 was still aboard the Infinity several months later, when it was neutralized by the Banished at Zeta Halo, is unclear, so her current status is unknown. The Illuminate, also known as the Squith, are an ancient race of technologically advanced beings who evolved from the oceans of their homeworld Squabai Shrine. Having come into existence thousands of years before humanity, they once expanded uninterrupted and formed a galaxy-spanning civilization known as the Illuminate Empire. Their existence would go unknown for much of history, but they would reveal themselves to humanity in the 21st century, reaching out with seemingly peaceful intentions. But peace was not an option, as it was learned that they possessed weapons of mass destruction. After 40 years of sustained conflict, and despite their superior technology, they were defeated in 2084. Their weapons and technology were confiscated, and any survivors were forced to leave the Milky Way galaxy. This brought about the total collapse of their long-standing empire and the near extinction of their species. But over the course of the next 100 years, they would build themselves a new fleet, returning to the galaxy in 2184, ready to carry out their revenge on Super-Earth and its colonies. The Terminids are a species of extraterrestrial insect-like creatures believed to have originated from the world of Kepler Prime. They have been deemed as fascists, but it would seem that they actually operate under a hive mind intelligence functioning in a hierarchical caste system. Shortly after their discovery, it was learned that their species produced a highly desirable oil-like substance, but when Super-Earth attempted the wide-scale harvesting of this oil, the bugs retaliated. The Helldivers were then deployed, and a conflict would unfold, only ending once the species was nearly exterminated in 2084. Now contained, their label quickly shifted back from enemy to rare resource, and the species would be selectively bred and farmed in a controlled manner, creating a seemingly endless supply of this rare substance. But in 2184, Terminids escaped some of these farms in the Galactic West and quickly moved to amass populations across the eastern sectors. Because of this, many worlds were overrun, and there are now over 24 documented variants of the Terminid species, many of which believed to be strains or mutations brought about by the previous manipulation of their DNA for increased yield. The Unggoy or Grunts were the lowest caste in the Covenant hierarchy, often seen as cannon fodder or expendable laborers. Still, even among them, rank and order existed. So, coming in as freshly conscripted recruits, they would be given the rank of minor. Being the most basic infantry in the Covenant, they were armed with only plasma pistols or needlers and wore orange-colored combat harnesses. But with more experience and greater discipline, they could be promoted to the rank of major, now being denoted by red armor and the occasional leading of small packs of lesser-ranking Unggoy. And their highest rank would be Ultra, who were identifiable through their ornate, pearlescent white armor. These represented the peak of their species' fighting capability and intelligence, even being able to hold their own alongside Sangheili in battle. And despite being considered a leader class, their role was often used in specialized attacks, rather than simply leading lesser-ranking Unggoy in generic military operations. Specialization roles existed in the Covenant for the Unggoy as well, an example being the role of Heavy. These Unggoy would be mostly seen carrying fuel rod cannons or operating plasma turrets while wearing green armor. But for those who had shown exceptional control and focus, they could find work in special operations. These individuals were mostly recognizable by their jet black armor, sometimes even seen wearing goggles. They would focus primarily on stealth-based missions, only being deployed under special circumstances, in some cases even being equipped with active camouflage. And while not seen in the games until Halo 4, they could also find a place among the Covenant's Rangers. Being a role that specialized in extravehicular activity, they wore vacuum-rated suits and utilized thruster packs. And in addition to low to zero gravity scenarios, they could also be deployed in terrestrial environments as well, specifically in instances where terrain might be too difficult to traverse for standard infantry. The unimpeded and widespread growth of the Terminids in the eastern sector led to the manifestation of the Gloom, which is an amalgamation of Terminid spores capable of traveling through the vacuum of space. It is believed that this event was brought about by a heavily concentrated version of their mode for interstellar travel made possible by launching biological material into space in hopes that it would establish new populations on other planets. Some super-Earth scientists even believe that these spores may be a conduit for the Terminids' hive mind intelligence over long distances, providing a means of biological interstellar communication. Helldiver operations would be heavily redirected to this affected region, and the success seen here would slowly cause the Gloom to begin receding. But several worlds which were soon revealed had been completely re-terraformed by the bugs into hive worlds, bringing with them the emergence of new Terminid variants such as the Predator strain, the airborne bile-spitting dragon roach, and the massive, thought to be previously extinct, Hive Lord. Halo Infinite's map Catalyst is set in a long-abandoned cliffside Forerunner structure on an unknown planet. Portions of the map appear to be in the process of being reclaimed by nature, while aggressor sentinels actively beneath the playable area. It is understood that Spartan-II was sent to this structure at some point following his induction into the Spartan-IV program in 2553, but not long before this mission, the structure had been taken over by a fledgling Yanmei hive, and when they were encountered, they proceeded to slaughter Din's team, leaving him the only survivor. Besides this conflict, nothing else is known about the location. The Pegasus Workshop Type 25 carbine spike rifle, better known as the Spiker, was a short-range automatic weapon originally manufactured by the Sacred Promissory specifically for Jiralhanae use. It traditionally featured two razor-sharp tungsten alloy bayonets for slashing or skewering enemies, and featured a 40-round magazine. These rounds were superheated and launched via a gravitic accelerator system, which allowed them to easily penetrate the flesh of any species, even being capable of pinning enemies to walls behind them. And at some point following the formation of the Banished, a modified version of the Spiker entered production, being manufactured now by the Grenflecht Workshop. The frame of the weapon now incorporated 6 blades which revolved around the weapon's barrel and a lessened bore size to increase the number of rounds per magazine. So even in the post-war era, the sights and sounds of this weapon remain a stark reminder of Jiralhanae brutality. The UNSC Pillar of Autumn was a Halcyon-class light cruiser that entered service in 2510. Following the Battle of Arcadia, the ship was retired alongside others in this class, but was retrofitted in 2550 to rejoin the war effort. Undergoing a wide array of upgrades, it would receive reformulated titanium A armor plating, have its fusion drive replaced with an experimental high-thrust model, and see the addition of more drop bays and hangar capacity, among many other improvements. Its command would then fall to Captain Jacob Keyes. These upgrades were originally intended to meet the needs of Operation Red Flag, though the mission was ultimately forestalled by the arrival of the Covenant at Reach. The ship would then shortly go planetside, retrieving a package from Noble Team which contained the AI Cortana's data matrix, before making its blind slipspace jump to evade Covenant forces. Several weeks of slipspace travel later, the ship would arrive at Installation 04, but was quickly neutralized, and would be forced to make an emergency landing on the ring's surface. The Autumn was ultimately destroyed through the manual detonation of its reactors, preventing both the Covenant from taking control of the ring and the potential for its activation. By 2560, only a handful of Spartan-IIs have survived decades of near-constant war, and when you exclude the washouts or the ones who have retired, there are only 14 known to still be in active service. The most notable of them, of course, would be the ever-present Blue Team, comprised of John 117, Linda 058, Kelly 087, and Frederick 104. There is also Red Team, who are believed to still be engaged with the Banish on the Lesser Ark, being made up of Jerome 092, Douglas 042, and Alice 130. Also operating directly under the orders of Oni would be Grey Team, who is made up of Michael 120, Adriana 111, and Jai 006. There's also Omega Team, being Leon 011, Robert 025, and August 099. And lastly, there is Naomi 010, who was transferred to Kilo 5 in 2553 and was documented as still operating with the team as late as 2558. Now, these are just the individuals who are definitively stated to still be alive and in active military service, but I want to also highlight the possibility that there are other Spartan-IIs who survived their augmentations and the Human Covenant War, yet are simply operating under the radar, or just haven't been featured in the games or novels as of late. In preparation for the upcoming Operation Red Flag, a planned mission to capture a Covenant hierarch and force a truce, it was determined that a third-generation volitional smart AI would be needed for such a task, and due to the importance of the mission, it would require the best that humanity could provide. But according to Dr. Catherine Halsey herself, none of the potential candidates that were presented to her were adequate. So she decided the best option would be to make her own. And if you recall, in order to create a smart AI, one must map the neural pathways of a donor brain. This process is traditionally only done on deceased individuals, as it essentially destroys the brain in the process. And since none of these provided candidates were good enough for her, she opted to use the best brain that she could think of, her own. Except rather than sacrificing her own life to do this, she would utilize the same flash cloning technology used to cover up the kidnapping of the Spartan-IIs, but these clones would be made to have drastically enhanced neurophysiology at the expense of proper anatomical development. And after her continual insisting that this was the only option, Oni agreed to the idea and provided her everything that she would need. Then on May 21st, 2549, Halsey would clone herself a total of 20 times.